Hi, I'm Tariq Melrose. You ever tried to make sense of a speech that sounded like it was written by a chatbot with commitment issues? Yeah, me too. That's why I'm here, to dissect the doublespeak, highlight the absurdity, and maybe, just maybe, spark a little hope for common sense. Subscribe now. This isn't just commentary. It's a public service.
When a Trump official can't define habeas corpus, you know our democracy's hanging by a Fox News thread. Watch how Democrats school the clueless secretary on constitutional basics and call out the creeping MAGA authoritarianism, only on Tariq Melrose Vlogs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Secretary. Secretary Noem, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff recently said that the Trump administration is actively looking at suspending habeas corpus. Last week you were asked about this, and I want to clarify your position because it's obviously really important to get this right. So, Secretary Noem, what is habeas corpus?
Well, habeas corpus is a constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right
let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
President
habeas
Lincoln
corpus,
used it.
Excuse me. Habeas corpus is the legal principle that requires that the government provide a public reason for detaining and imprisoning people. If not for that protection, the government could simply arrest people, including American citizens, and hold them indefinitely for no reason. Habeas corpus is the foundational right that separates free societies like America from police states like North Korea. As a senator from the Live Free or Die state, this matters a lot to me and my constituents and to all Americans. So, Secretary Noem, do you support the core protection that habeas corpus provides, that the government must provide a public reason in order to detain and imprison someone?
Yeah, I support habeas corpus. I also recognize that the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to decide if it should be suspended or not.
It has never
Let us be clear, though, that this president...
It has never been done without approval of Congress. Even Abraham Lincoln got retroactive approval from Congress. So I have been asking executive branch nominees a simple question over the past few months. If the president orders them to break the law, I've been asking, will you follow the law or follow the order? I want to ask you a more specific question here. If the president tries to suspend habeas corpus and a federal court reverses the president's order, will you comply with the court order and uphold habeas corpus, or will you follow the president's directive?
We are following all federal court orders and are complying with that, as is the president, and every decision that I make as well.
That is obviously not true for anybody who reads the news. There are federal court orders right now, including returning somebody who was deported mistakenly. But to be clear, this is about a fundamental legal right that ensures that we live in a free society instead of a police state that would have a sham legal system like Russia or North Korea. So I'm glad that you have now committed to following court orders. I'm glad you believe in the basic freedom for Americans if ordered to do so by a court. And again, I want just to make clear that it is critically important that even if the president tries to suspend the right of people to know why they've been detained or imprisoned, if a federal court reverses that order, that you will follow that order. And I hope all members of the administration will, because it's obviously critical that some of the people, for instance, who've been deported by mistake, who didn't get due process, be returned in compliance with court orders. So now, let's move on to another issue. International criminal organizations target Americans with sophisticated cyber crime, including elaborate scams that robbed Americans of billions of dollars, with seniors in the United States losing $5 billion to scammers in 2024 alone. As artificial intelligence improves, so does the ability of criminals to deceive and defraud Americans. With this new technology, criminals can impersonate loved ones, develop advanced malware, or make more convincing phishing messages. How is DHS working to identify trends in illegal activity and ensure that new AI systems have safeguards in place to prevent their use in criminal activity?
Yes, we are working extensively through CISA, but in all of our agencies to make sure that we're going after these criminal, nefarious actors. I would say partnering with private industry is critically important so that we have the insight that we need to really understand the tactics that they use and the advancements in software. The AI ability that they have to adjust and to supersede some of our systems is incredible. And so investing in those systems is important, but also having the knowledge and bringing everybody to the table and breaking down the silos between our agencies and our intelligence agencies is important, so we all have the information that we need to get.
Well, and that gets me to one final point and question here, because Senator Peters began to ask about it. There's been recent reporting that indicates that the Chinese government installed remote access to Chinese-made power inverters in the U.S., raising concerns that the Chinese government could try to disable parts of our power grid. And you made a comment following up on Senator Peters' question about the importance of not only working with private industry on this issue, as you would also want to work on AI, but also on working with state and local governments on cybersecurity. And can you just talk to me a little bit about how DHS is partnering with state and local governments right now on cyber?
Well, that's one of the core critical missions of CISA, is to help those state and local governments harden their systems. We're extremely vulnerable by our weakest link. And so when you have a small state that doesn't have the resources it needs to invest in these security operations, then they're vulnerable to attacks and hacking attempts, and they can access our systems. If they have a contract or a system that interfaces with the federal system, it makes us vulnerable as well. So we are responsible for 10 of the 16 critical infrastructures under the Department of Homeland Security, and making sure that China can't come in and shut down our electrical grid, our water systems, things that people rely on every day for their day-to-day lives is very important. So that's why we need these kind of partnerships, is to make sure that we're secure all the way down to our smallest actor that participates.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate working more with you on that. Thank you.
Welcome back to Tariq Melrose Vlogs, where we don't let political gaslighting slide, not when the Constitution's on the line. Today, we're talking about one of the most alarming moments of governmental ignorance caught on camera. A Trump administration official, Secretary Noem, floundering on live television when asked to explain one of the most fundamental rights in American democracy, habeas corpus. Let me be absolutely clear. If your government can't even define the constitutional principle that protects you from unlawful detention, you're not living in a democracy. You're teetering on the edge of authoritarianism. When asked point blank to define habeas corpus, Secretary Noem gave a jaw-dropping answer. She claimed it was the president's constitutional authority to remove people from the country and suspend their rights. What? That's not just wrong. It's dangerous. Habeas corpus isn't about removing people. It's about protecting everyone, citizen or not, from being imprisoned without a reason. It's what separates the United States from police states like North Korea and Russia. Thank goodness for the Democrat in the room who had the spine to stop her right there and correct the record. He laid it out simply. Habeas corpus means the government must give a public, legal reason for arresting and detaining a person. Without it, we're no better than dictatorships. It's the legal firewall that keeps tyranny in check. This was more than a flub. It was an exposure of the creeping rot in MAGA world's understanding of the Constitution. We've seen Republicans use phrases like law and order as shields to justify authoritarian overreach, but now they want to suspend habeas corpus altogether? That's not patriotism. That's fascism in slow motion. And let's not pretend this was just some harmless misstatement. The Trump administration has been actively testing the limits of executive power. From Muslim bans to family separations to defying court orders, their track record is clear. If they could detain you without cause and strip you of rights, they absolutely would. Secretary Noem eventually walked back her statement, claiming she supports habeas corpus and would follow court orders. But by then, the damage was done. You can't stumble on something this basic and expect to be trusted with power. This isn't complicated legal theory. It's high school civics. Even when pressed again, if a president suspends habeas corpus and a federal court reverses that decision, would she follow the court? She gave a half-hearted yes and tried to spin the administration's record as compliant. That would be laughable if it weren't terrifying. The reality is, Trump's team has defied court orders multiple times. Ask anyone deported by mistake, anyone denied due process, anyone brutalized at the border. These are not hypotheticals, they're facts. This isn't just about one official being unprepared. It's about a Republican Party that's grown comfortable dancing on the edge of authoritarianism. And the rest of us, we've got to stop pretending that these slip-ups are harmless. They're not. They're warnings. And if you needed further proof of the sheer incompetence on display, look no further than the rest of the hearing. Questions on cybersecurity, AI crime, foreign infrastructure sabotage, you name it. Secretary Noem waffled through vague promises, buzzwords, and partnerships. When pressed for clear answers, she leaned on generic talking points and political theater. There was no plan, no urgency, no understanding. Cybersecurity experts have warned us that the next big attack on American soil won't come from boots on the ground. It'll come from a keyboard. And yet, Trump's Homeland Security team can't even secure a hearing without exposing their ignorance. And let's talk about China. The issue of Chinese-made inverters installed in critical U.S. infrastructure, giving the Chinese government potential backdoor access to our power grid, should have been met with a detailed, coordinated national security response. Instead, we got surface-level reassurances and a lot of dodging. When your biggest contribution to cybersecurity is vague talk about partnerships with local government, you're not running a counterintelligence operation. You're managing a PR disaster. If this hearing proved anything, it's that the Trump administration has no business pretending to be the party of law and order. They are the party of constitutional confusion, legal chaos, and national vulnerability. The Democrats in the room showed real leadership, rooted in law, grounded in facts, and unafraid to challenge ignorance. That's what governing looks like. That's what accountability looks like. And we need more of it. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about politics. It's about the integrity of our republic. It's about ensuring that every American, regardless of race, religion, immigration status, or political belief, is protected from the abuses of unchecked power. That starts with knowing what habeas corpus is. And if Trump's people can't even manage that, they have no business leading anything, let alone the United States of America. If this breakdown made your blood boil and your spine straighten, you're not alone. Subscribe to Tariq Melrose Vlogs, where we fight lies with facts, expose Republican hypocrisy, and protect the Constitution from the people pretending to defend it. Smash that bell, share the truth, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because this fight isn't over, and neither are we. Stay alert, stay loud, stay free.